What is diabetes? We hear it all the time, but like, what's actually happening in the body?
You know what's so interesting about diabetes is it all comes down to energy. You see, your body uses glucose. It's like fuel, and it powers everything you do. But to get that fuel, that glucose, into your cells, you need insulin. It's kind of like the
Ah,
key that unlocks those cells.
okay, so insulin is the key.
Mm.
What happens in diabetes? Is it like people just don't have enough keys?
Well, sometimes it is like that. In type 1 diabetes, your immune system actually attacks the cells that make insulin. So it's almost like there aren't any keys being made.
Yeah.
It's like, having a full tank of gas, but no way to get the fuel to the engine.
Whoa, that's rough. But I know type 1 isn't as common as type 2, right?
Yeah, you're right. Type 2 is way more common. And in this case, it's not a lack of keys. It's more like the cell doors are getting rusty. So the keys, they don't work as well. That's what we call insulin resistance.
Oh, so the cells are kind of ignoring the insulin signal. That's got to be frustrating.
You know it is. And your pancreas, which is what makes insulin, tries to make up for it by pumping out more and more keys. But eventually, it just can't keep up. And that's when your blood sugar starts to rise.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got type 1, not enough keys, and type 2, rusty locks.
Hmm.
Any other types of diabetes we should know about?
Oh, yeah, there's gestational diabetes. This one develops during pregnancy. It's kind of like a temporary insulin resistance that's caused by hormones from the placenta. But the good news is it usually goes away after the baby is born.
So basically, all these types of diabetes are messing with the body's ability to use glucose effectively. But beyond the numbers, on a blood sugar meter, how does this actually feel? What are some of the real-world effects of diabetes?
Well, remember we were talking about glucose being like fuel. If it's not getting into your cells, you're going to feel tired, run down. Even if you're eating plenty, it's like, I don't know, like having a full tank of gas but a clogged fuel line. So your engine just can't run the way it should.
That's a good analogy. I can see how that would make you feel totally wiped out. What
Mhm.
about other symptoms?
Another common one is being really thirsty and having to pee a lot. When there's too much glucose in your blood, your kidneys are working overtime trying to flush it out. So you get those classic signs of diabetes like excessive thirst and urination.
So it's almost like your body's trying to get rid of all that excess fuel it can't use.
Exactly. And sometimes people with diabetes will even experience unexplained weight loss, even if they're eating more than usual. It's because their body isn't using the glucose properly, so it starts burning fat for energy instead.
Interesting. But I've also heard that weight gain is a risk factor for type 2 diabetes. Seems kind of counterintuitive.
It is, right. And it shows just how complex this condition really is, because obesity itself can lead to insulin resistance, which then makes it even harder for your body to use glucose effectively. It's kind of a vicious cycle.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on there. But before we get too overwhelmed, I know our listener is eager to hear about solutions. So what are some ways people can manage this complex condition and, still live healthy lives with diabetes?
Well, that's a great question, and it's really where things start to get empowering. The good news is there are tons of tools and strategies out there that can help people manage their diabetes and live full and active lives.
Okay, so let's jump into those management strategies.
When it comes to managing diabetes, it's not just about, keeping your blood sugar in check at any given moment. It's about thinking long term, protecting your health down the road, and preventing complications.
That makes sense. We talked about some of those immediate effects of high blood sugar, right?
Yeah.
But what about the long term? What kind of damage can happen if someone doesn't manage their diabetes?
Well, one of the biggest things to worry about is cardiovascular disease. Diabetes really increases the risk of, well, everything: heart attacks, strokes, other heart problems.
Wow, that's pretty serious.
Ah.
Is it like a direct link between high blood sugar and heart issues?
Yeah, basically, high blood sugar can actually damage the lining of your blood vessels.
Right.
Makes them more likely to narrow and harden, kind of like, plumbing with buildup. It gets harder for blood to flow through, so your heart's working harder. There's more risk of blockages, and that leads to, well, those serious cardiovascular events.
Oh, so it's like a domino effect starting with those little blood vessels.
Oh.
What about other organs? Are they at risk from high blood sugar too?
Definitely. Another common one is nerve damage. It's also called diabetic neuropathy. And basically, high blood sugar can damage the nerves, especially in your feet. And that leads to numbness, tingling, sometimes even pain.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
That's going to be really unsettling. Is it always in the feet or can it happen in other parts of your body too?
It can definitely happen elsewhere, too. Unfortunately, it can affect your digestive system, too. And that leads to problems like nausea, vomiting, constipation. It can really mess with how your body works.
So it's not just like physical sensations, it's like internal stuff too.
Yeah.
Are there other big risks we should know about? long-term risks from high blood sugar, I mean.
Yeah, high blood sugar can also damage your kidneys, which, filter waste from your blood. Over time, it can lead to diabetic nephropathy, which is basically chronic kidney disease. And in some cases, it can even lead to kidney failure. And then, you might need dialysis or even a transplant.
Wow, it seems like if you don't manage your diabetes, it can really have a ripple effect on your whole body. It's kind of heavy stuff.
Mhm.
Are there any other long-term risks from high blood sugar, I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. One more big one. High blood sugar can also mess with the tiny blood vessels in your retina. That's the back of your eye. And over time, it can lead to vision problems, even blindness in some cases.
That's scary to think about, how one condition can impact so many different parts of your body. It really makes you realize how important it is to manage diabetes, you know, like really get it under control.
Exactly. It's not just about avoiding those, immediate symptoms of high blood sugar. It's about protecting yourself in the long run, preventing those really serious complications.
Okay, so we've talked about the what and the why of diabetes, but now I think it's time to talk about the how. Like, what can people actually do to manage this condition and, live a good life with diabetes?
Well, the good news is there are tons of things people can do to manage their diabetes and live well. It starts with understanding the different types of diabetes and how they're treated.
Right, we talked about type 1 and type 2 earlier. Let's start with type 1. What are the, essential things people need to do to manage that?
For type 1, insulin therapy is like non-negotiable. Since their bodies don't make insulin, they need to get it from somewhere else. So that's usually injections or an insulin pump.
So it's like giving their body the missing piece of the puzzle, the key they don't have, right?
Exactly. Insulin therapy lets people with type 1 diabetes regulate their blood sugar and, live normal, healthy lives.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What about type 2? What are the key things people can do to manage that?
Well, with type 2, you usually start with lifestyle changes, like making changes to your diet, exercising more, and, working towards a healthy weight.
Okay, let's break those down. Starting with diet, what are the top things people with type 2 should be thinking about?
Well, one of the biggest things is focusing on foods that don't spike your blood sugar, like choosing complex carbs over simple sugars, eating plenty of fiber, and watching your portion sizes.
So it's not like you can't eat anything. It's more about making choices that help you keep your blood sugar stable.
Hmm.
What about exercise? Where does that fit in?
Regular exercise is huge for people with type 2. It helps your body use insulin better, makes it work more efficiently. Like, remember we talked about those rusty cell doors? Exercise is kind of like oiling those doors, so they respond better to the insulin key.
I love that analogy. So diet and exercise are both working to make the body better at using glucose naturally. But what if those lifestyle changes aren't enough? To manage blood sugar, I mean.
That's when you might need medication.
Yeah.
And for type 2 diabetes, there are a bunch of options. Pills you take, shots you take, all sorts of things.
Okay, let's talk about those medications. I know there are a lot of different ones. What are some of the most common types that doctors use to treat type 2?
One of the most popular ones is called metformin. It basically makes your body more sensitive to insulin, so it helps those rusty doors work better.
Oh, so it's like giving those doors a good scrub to make them more responsive to the key. I like that way of thinking about it. What other types of medications are there?
There are sulfonylureas, and those work by making your pancreas produce more insulin.
So like boosting the pancreas to make more keys.
Exactly. And there are other types of meds that work in different ways, but they all help to lower blood sugar. Some help your body absorb glucose more slowly. Some increase insulin release. Some even mimic the effects of certain hormones that regulate blood sugar.
Wow, so there are a lot of ways to approach managing type 2 with medication.
Hmm.
How do doctors figure out which one is the best fit for each person?
It's really personalized. Doctors look at your blood sugar levels, your overall health, your lifestyle, what you're comfortable with. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
That makes sense. So it's not just about meds and lifestyle changes, right? What else is important for managing diabetes?
Monitoring is huge. You got to keep track of your blood sugar. It helps you see how your body reacts to different foods, different activities, different meds. Then you can make adjustments to your plan as you go.
I bet it's pretty empowering to have that data, to really see what's working.
Hmm.
Are there different ways to monitor your blood sugar?
There are. The classic way is the finger stick test, using a glucose meter. But now there are also continuous glucose monitors, or CGMs. They give you readings all the time, day and night.
Oh yeah, those CGM sound super high-tech.
Yeah.
Do you need a prescription for those?
Yeah, you do. They're getting more and more popular, but they might not be right for everyone. It's something you should talk to your doctor about.
Okay, so those are for monitoring in the short term. What about the long term? How do doctors keep track of how someone's doing with their diabetes over time?
Well, that's where the A1C test comes in.
Mhm.
Remember how we were talking about glucose being like fuel? Well, think of the A1C test as measuring how much glucose is kind of stuck to your red blood cells over time. So it gives you a big picture view of your fuel efficiencies, so to speak. It basically tells you your average blood sugar over the past few months.
So it's like a report card for your blood sugar.
Exactly. It's
Right.
really helpful for doctors, you know? They can see how you're doing long term and make changes to your treatment plan if they need to.
This has been so informative. We've covered so much ground, the different types of diabetes, those long-term risks, all those ways people manage this complex condition.
And we're not even done yet. There's even more to talk about when it comes to diabetes.
I know, right? We still have to dive into the latest research and all those amazing possibilities for treating diabetes in the future. But now I'm curious, what does the future look like for people with diabetes? What kind of cool stuff is coming down the pipeline?
That's a great question. And you're right, there's always something new happening in diabetes research. One of the really exciting areas is the development of artificial pancreases. They're also called closed-loop systems.
Okay, artificial pancreases. What are those all about?
Basically, it's like combining an insulin pump, a CGM, and this really smart algorithm.
Hmm.
So the system is constantly checking your blood sugar and adjusting your insulin levels automatically.
Whoa, so it's like having an automated system doing all the work, the monitoring and adjusting. That sounds pretty futuristic.
It is, and the technology is getting better and better all the time. Some systems are already being used, and we'll probably see even more advanced ones in the next few years.
That's amazing, especially for people with type 1, right? It takes so much of the guesswork out of managing their diabetes.
Yeah.
What about other areas of research? Any promising stuff for actually treating or even curing diabetes?
Yeah, there's some really exciting work happening with stem cell therapy. Scientists are trying to figure out how to use stem cells to, regrow those insulin-producing cells in the pancreas.
So replacing the damaged cells with brand new ones, that would be incredible.
It would be a game changer for sure. It's still early days, but there have already been some promising results in clinical trials. It's definitely something to keep an eye on.
That's so encouraging to hear. It sounds like there's a lot to look forward to in the world of diabetes research.
Yeah.
But aside from all this cutting-edge stuff, what can people living with diabetes do right now to, improve their health and well-being?
You know, it's easy to get caught up in all the fancy technology, but honestly, knowledge and self-care are still the most important things. Staying informed about your condition, working with your healthcare team, and being proactive about your management. That's really what helps you live well with diabetes.
I love that. It's about empowering yourself to take control of your health.
You got it. And it's not just the physical stuff, it's the emotional and mental stuff too. Connecting with other people who get it, like support groups or online communities, that can make a huge difference.
That makes total sense. Diabetes can be a lot to handle, so having a support system is so important. As we wrap up this deep dive, is there anything else you want to leave our listener with?
Just this diabetes is complex, but it doesn't have to rule your life. With the right knowledge, the right tools, and the right support, you can absolutely live a healthy and fulfilling life. It's about taking charge, making good choices, and connecting with the amazing community of people who are on this journey with you.
That's a really powerful message. It's been so great exploring the world of diabetes with you today. I feel like I've learned so much, and I hope our listener does too.
Me too. It's been a pleasure sharing this deep dive with you both.
And to our listener, thanks for coming along with us on this journey into diabetes. Remember, knowledge is power, and you are the one in charge of your well-being. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep striving for a healthier, happier you. We'll see you next time.